I've got Joseph Fabian Ayitevi, he's CEO, Cognitive AI Technology. He's joining us via Zoom. Ethel Kofi is board chair of the Ghana Government ICT Sector Skills. I'm sure it's a very familiar name. She has a very familiar name in this space. I have Ike J. Mensah, who is CEO and co-founder of Deaf Can Talk. And I have Esther Kofi, who's a student of the Presbyterian College of Education. Now, Ethel and Ike. Okay, so somebody's listening to you. Ethel, just briefly, in a few seconds, what do you do at the Ghana Government ICT Skills or Sector Skills? What do you do there?
Well, so Ghana Government ICT Sector Skills Board is a private sector board created in collaboration with the German government to essentially advise the Ministry of Education and the Commission for Technical and Vocational Education on ICT curriculums. This is for pre-tertiary and tertiary.
Okay.
So our job is basically to say, look, we are the employers. We are the ones who need the skills that come out of school. What should the curriculums look like?
Okay.
We support the design. We support the strategy around all those curriculums. So that's the work.
That's the work. I see. Thank you so much.
For me, I suppose my job as chair of the sector skills, the ICT sector skills body, my thinking is from two sides, right? So I worry very much about ensuring that we have curriculums that enable us to bring along the next generation of developers, the next generation of people that will be building the apps, building the things that we'll be using to integrate AI with the educational sector. That's one side. And also the conversation about infrastructure. And that's where your question comes in. So how can we begin to use AI to ensure that the infrastructure of learning is easier? And my thinking has always been that we worry a lot about sort of internet and that sort of, because AI, people say, but AI is up there. We have mathematical and science and those kind of issues. But my take here is that we can always leverage the complexity of AI, but deliver it in simple, sustainable ways, like they're doing with the app. Or you can
complexity of AI.
The simplicity, yes. And you can even deliver it by USSD, whatever at the back end. So my take is that AI can even be used in the remotest areas, but we need to be able to connect the complexity of using the artificial intelligence and the simplicity of delivering solutions.
Wonderful. Great. I love that. Let me stay with Ethel and I'll bring Esther in. Let's talk about AI and education for underserved communities, or I can expand and say those who are underprivileged, those who have one challenge or the other. How can we get AI to help make education more inclusive for all these people to ensure that everybody has equal access to quality learning resources?
Right. Answering the question of equal access is a very, very hard question. But I think in the end, AI allows us to automate and personalize learning experiences, right? I'll give you a read. I have toddlers, and they are currently in the process of learning to read. And one of the things that I've done one of the things I began to do when they started to learn to read was to ask ChatGPT, okay, give me 3-letter word. First of all, I asked ChatGPT to design, because we got, the kindergarten, we got a report card back. And I plugged into ChatGPT and I said, hey, this is my 4-year-old, this is their report card. Can you design me a program to teach them at home so that the places where they're not doing well, we can pick up. AI gave me a really good design. And then I will use that and, it's reading daily, that sort of thing. And then I used AI because now they can good enough 3-letter words. I said, AI, here is a store of the words they can read. Can you develop a few letters and a few stories, reading book stories at 4-year-old level? And then we use the illustrator to illustrate a few things. And then you print it out, and that's reading for the night. So there is a lot of ways in which AI can be employed to personalize the education experience, be it whether the child is in East Legon or whether they're in the northern region. You have to think about how we can take the complexity but deliver the solutions simply to our students.
Wonderful. Ethel and Rashida, let me ask you. Let's talk about ethical considerations and the potential risks associated with integrating AI into education. Yes, you can go.
Well, Rashida just said there. No, I think there is, with any new technology that we don't fully understand, because we're now figuring out the capabilities and how far AI can go. And we've also seen that sometimes AI might not be consistent, right? Or might not give you, because even ChatGPT will tell you sometimes they say AI hallucinates, right?
Yes.
So sometimes it gives you answers that are incorrect or scenarios that might not exist. And so because we have not fully explored that, there's always worries of, if we are leaving it with kids and we're using it to teach kids, which is why I always said AI is not taking the job of a teacher away. It is augmenting the job of a teacher. It's supporting the teacher, because you still need the human, because we haven't figured out end to end. There is also, as with any type of tech, there is always ensuring that people are using it for the good of humanity and not just for pushing boundaries that we're not supposed to push. We've seen it with the AI companies. For instance, we have a standard in the web community that says that if I put a certain text on my website, it means AI or even Google should not crawl it or scrap on the website. But the AI companies are doing it, even though it's something we've agreed on. So there are ethical issues about the people building AI, the character around it, which is why it's important. One of the things this week, actually, there is a team of 7 experts and 4 people from academia that are sitting in Cape Coast today that are starting the process of designing HND for AI. I was supposed to be there. I will show up on Wednesday, but anybody listening, so why I thought it's not there. But part of that curriculum is a big chunk, because I wrote the scope of the curriculum. Part of that is the ethical considerations, what we should be thinking in terms of morality and ethics in designing solutions. How far is the same thing as when, like, algorithms on Instagram.
Yes.
Right? Teenagers should not be looking at it, because again, it might be pushing content that they may like but are not useful to them. And those are things that we must teach, and which is why we're doing it, even though we are teaching, how to develop AI, all those things. Underneath that, legal and ethical implications, because the people who will be building systems need to think about the human being and the good of society while they're building those solutions.
Wonderful, Rashida. So let me come back to you. We've spoken about the ethical considerations. Let's talk about the infrastructural considerations, right? So what do we need? What are the requirements? We want to integrate AI into Ghanaian classrooms. What type of infrastructure do we need? And how can AI-powered learning platforms be made accessible and affordable? So 2 things, accessible and affordable to everybody, whether you live in Accra or up north or somewhere in the country.
I think that's the hardest part of, at least what I do as the chair of the Sector Sales Board, is understanding that, because it's pre-tertiary and tertiary, understanding that this curriculum has to work for a child in the poorest part of Ghana, and also has to work for the East Legon Airport kid, right? And that's the difficulty. Now, I'm going to be a little bit controversial when I say the first infrastructure is electricity.
Oh, yeah. That's what makes everything happen, right?
The first infrastructure that needs to be working is electricity. Because also you have to understand, AI takes up a lot of electricity.
Okay.
And this is a conversation we're not having. That the gap, the technological gap that's going to happen is also going to be affected by, right? AI takes up more electricity than most tech systems. That's one. Then we go back to your computers or your devices, right, in the classrooms. And so part of what we're designing curriculum is to think, can this, if there isn't a device, can this be taught in a way where kids can pick up, right? And that's very hard, right? But you have to think about that when looking into the design. So what can we teach if I don't want to mention a place so that somebody gets annoyed that I mentioned their area, but you know what I mean. What can we teach that teaches the fundamental skill sets and building blocks so that child has at least the foundations? And sometimes it's not the AI is too far. Sometimes it's the math and science and the logical thinking, so that when maybe if they're out of that environment and they're in secondary school, they're tertiary, we can build on that way of thinking.
Okay.
Because quite frankly, I really do wish we had the answer for, hey, let's flood everybody with tablets. Let's flood it. But it's not something that we can do or we can afford, right, to do. So when we are thinking at least pre-tertiary, we are very, very careful about ensuring that the foundation is the important thing. Your math, your science, your algorithms, your ways of thinking, that's important. That child makes it through to the next level, then we can build up, at least they're in secondary school, where there's a higher likelihood of maybe there might be a computer lab, maybe then you're teaching it. So at least by that time, if a child is good enough to get through to university level, they have the foundational principles. Now, unfortunately, when they enter the classroom, the airport kid versus that kid, there is still an imbalance, but they still have a foundation. So when they say now it's what tool can we apply? What tool can I learn? What tool can I pick up? Because the foundation is there. One of the problems is people turn up and they don't even have the foundations. Right? And so we can't even go from there to development. We can't even go from there to design to algorithms.
Because they are math and science.
Their math and science is not. And so electricity, math and science.
so electricity at the base.
Yes.
The devices, they can come along. So electricity important. And then the fundamental knowledge.
Yes.
Math, science, logical thinking. And then we build all other things.
Imagine that. Just the BEC, there may be 1 or 2 mock exams. I have it's a long time ago, so I read BEC, but you know what I mean. Imagine that all those mock exams, all that data is fed into a system, and that system analyzes the data, and it's telling GES, here is your danger signs, or here's your whatever students, your 10,000 students that are going to write BEC this year, and you have a major problem with understanding this basic concept in science. You have here's where the kids are doing well, here's not. And then GES takes that information and then works with the teachers to ensure that the students, those areas are fixed. Those are the possibilities we have. Now, it's going to have to be private sector, it's going to be government, being able to enable private sector to take a look at its data, because the thing government can give us is data, access to data, allowing private businesses to access that data, use that data to then build solutions on top of it, and partner so that those solutions then go into the classroom to work with teachers and support those teachers. Then we actually have a cycle, because then those students come out, they build more things, and we have a cycle. What I said, I said this at the Bank of Ghana 3 event. We're not first movers in AI. We're not going to win because we're not the first movers. What is our advantage? What is the thing that we can bring to the table that separates, that makes us different, that develops? Here's the thing. Africa has the youngest continent, right? The average age is 17. The average age on the continent is 17. So we basically have the workforce of the future.
Yeah.
Right? So we have an opportunity to be able to own. We will not own, they've gone ahead of us, but we will own the skill sets that will build and develop, and we need to make a plan. So that's where I'm coming from.
See, a plan.
I suppose I only have one plan here. So, as my job as chair of the Skills Board, we are always looking for experts to come and help us design curriculum. So I have a preference for 80% of the room being practitioners. People are actually on the field doing the work.
So when you say practitioner, who are you talking about?
So if we're doing computer science, I want developers in the room.
Okay.
I want you understand, I want people who are actually day to day doing that job, sitting in the room, helping us design the curriculum. I want employers sitting in the room so that when we design the curriculum, we know that we are getting the right set of people coming out. And so my appeal is every time I always put out, and if you're following me on news or social platform, we always put out calls for experts. Please take out the time to come and help and support us to ensure that our educational system is up to par.